Originally, it was an elevated level at the back of an engine. There, the tempting stern was being swamped by large waves. The most important thing is the food. And on the Titanic, the third class got food, which seems like a no-duh kind of statement, but not long before, that wasn't always the case. Many times, the third class had to bring not almost all of their own food, but their own cutlery as well. But not on the Titanic. On the Titanic, even the third class food was first class. We had a grand time on the Titanic. We got ship side to ship side, well lighted with sidelights, and all finished in enamel white. The chairs are of special design. The position of this apartment, i.e., the center of the ship, illustrates the wonderful strides made in passenger comfort in modern times. Together, the rooms could accommodate 473 people, so the size one of two seats. As you entered, you'd likely hang up your coat and hat on hooks along the wall, which were decorated with posters of the White Star Line ship. Tables of about 20, which were lined in linen, and you would be served by a steward. Your food coming in on white china featuring the White Star logo. And you know what your options were ahead of time because every day the menu was printed on a card in German, English, Finnish, and Swedish. And there were 4 meals a day: breakfast, dinner, tea, and supper. On Titanic's final day, breakfast consisted of, among other things, oatmeal porridge and milk, smoked herrings, jacket potatoes, ham and eggs, and plenty of fresh bread, butter, and marmalade with tea and coffee. Dinner, being the main meal of the day in third class and served around noon, would have started that we're making today. After that, you'd have roast beef, brown gravy, sweet corn, boiled potatoes, and plum pudding with sweet sauce and fruit. For tea, it was cold meat, cheese, pickles, bread and butter, stewed figs, and rice. And while pretty much everyone had an afternoon meal called tea at the time, the way that this tea happened was very different depending on your place in society. In 1914, a book called The Whole Art of Dining contemptuously described this version of tea. The tea begins
Ay, mga
with
kajumis, kain.
and one of the greatest injuries of
Kain ng
day
cake.
is possibly this tea. This incongruous kind of food may no doubt be quite nice and tasty for this class of people, but it must shock anyone endowed with refined Epicurean instinct. Well, I think it sounds just lovely. Less lovely sounding was
Yan,
supper,
leftover
which
kagabi.
consisted of gruel, ham and biscuits,
Hello,
and cheese.
Sniper.
Now, gruel
Good
gets a bad rap,
good
and one of these days I'll do an
morning.
entire episode on
Bigyan
gruel,
ka
but
love
in this
shout
case,
out. Maraming
gruel
salamat
is
sa
similar to
pag-visit.
oatmeal that you make
Good
if it
morning.
wastewater. And the cabin biscuits
Ano,
were a fancier
tawag
version of
doon?
hardtack.
Cake.
In the lifeboats, they had a less fancy version of hardtack called Spillers and Baker's Pilot
Kaya
biscuits.
kagabi.
So the meals were simple, but they were filling, and they were probably a lot better than most of what the third class was accustomed to. And White Star Line even gave an
Salamat sa
allowance for
lahat.
kosher meat supplied and cooked for Jewish passengers as desired. And any complaint respecting the food supplied, want of attention, or incivility should be at once reported to the prison
Hello,
or chief
Jumix
steward.
Shaina.
Of identification,
Mia
each
Monter.
separate badge on the arm.
Sa pag-visit.
Most people on that April 14, 1912, probably went to bed shortly after, but at 11:40 it would be rudely roused from their
Dali lang.
slumber. There were 4 of us sleeping in the same apartment. We had a bed of our own, and in every apartment there were 4 lifebelts, one for each person. At the time when the ship got struck, I heard a terrible noise. I jumped out of bed and told my comrades there was something wrong, but they only laughed. I turned on the gas, and to my surprise, there was a small stream of water running along the floor. I had only just dressed myself when the sailors came along shouting, "All up on deck, unless you want to get drowned." That was third-class passenger Daniel
Tamis ng
Buckley. He was in one of the up there. You would have likely felt the iceberg as well, and very soon afterwards seen water on the floor. Many of the men up put on their life belts right away and headed down what was known as Scotland Road, which was a long corridor connecting the front to the back of the ship. They went back to the third-class smoking room, which was all the way aft, but many of the men who were back there hadn't really felt the iceberg and definitely hadn't seen any water, and so they weren't taking it seriously. They mocked the men for wearing life belts, and there were stewards who instructed the men to actually remove the lifeboats. Now, while the third class was not forced to stay below decks, they were encouraged to stay in one place and await further instructions from the crew. But as the crew went out onto deck and started loading lifeboats, they got distracted and never went back down to tell the third class passengers what to do. And by having seen the water in his room, did not wait for instructions. I went on deck and met a sailor who asked me to help him lower the boats. The sailor said, "Take a
Hello,
chance
Eli
yourself."
Panikan. Good morning.
The officers came along and ordered
Good
us off the
morning.
boat.
Mega
The
love
woman
shout
said,
out.
"Lay down, lad. You are somebody's child." She put a rug over me and the boat went out, so I was saved. Gershon Cohen, another third-class passenger, said that he didn't have a life belt in his room, but he wasn't that worried because when he went to the general room, everyone was dancing and singing, and nobody seemed that worried. It was only when he, too, went out on deck and saw ice all over the place that he realized the gravity of the situation. He actually climbed up onto the first-class deck and started searching for a life belt, which took him 30 minutes before he found one. I had just put it on when the boat tilted right over and a lot of people fell into the water and were drowned. I clung to the railings of the deck for dear life, and I was about 200 feet above the level of the water.
Hello, Arnold Punsaran, Good Mix. Arnold Punsaran, maraming salamat. Bigay lang shout out sa lahat ng mga nag-visit. Maraming salamat. Kain-kain tayo ng cake. Leftover. Shorty, shorty. Maraming salamat.
There was nearly all women, children, and 3 men. I was given one of the oars to pull the boat. We had to pull very hard because the Titanic was sinking, and suction would pull us all. A lot less about what was happening on the Titanic during the very last minutes. But there are a few stories from survivors who were pulled from the water. One tells of a third-class passenger running through the general room on his way to try to get out.
Hello, Marina, Jumix Marina, Simbanan. Good morning, shouty, shouty sa lahat. Maraming salamat sa pag-visit. Kain. Ayun, dito tayo sa ibang posto.
More than any other class. So it was actually the crew that suffered the most loss.
Maraming salamat.
Covering the crew at large. But in the next mini episode I'm going to talk about one crew member specifically, the baker. This guy from the 1997 movie. But before we move on from third class, I wanted to tell one more first-hand account. And I was actually not going to because it's really strange and can seem almost callous. But after reflecting on it,
Maraming salamat
I
sa mga
realized that it
nag-like.
shows an
Na hindi na
aspect
natin
of
maubos, sobrang
humanity
tamis.
that none of the other
Sobrang
accounts
tamis ng ano.
None of the other accounts have. It's the letter from Bertha
Tawag
Fulmigo
ko.
to her
Okay.
sister Maud. And Bertha wrote this on the Carpathia.
Ayan,
Because
shorty,
the
shorty sa
survivors after
lahat.
the actual sinking is when she's writing this letter. And
Yeah.
I don't know if she was in charge of the disaster. I am so glad I was in it. I shall never forget it. I never saw such a sight as when the dear old Titanic sank. She broke in 2 pieces. The scene was
Bigyan ko
awful.
shout out. Ayan, nagbago tayo ng
So
ano.
happy to witness the sight. I am awfully happy. Like the night I was born. Never felt clear in my life. No fear. Now I could tell countless stories from the third class on that fateful April night, but as it happens, it's time to spice up our rice soup. So once the rice is nice and soft, add in the salt, cayenne pepper, and the mace, and then pour in the cream. And stir it while you bring it back to a boil for 1 minute. And then it's ready to serve. And here we are, rice soup as served to third-class passengers aboard the Titanic. It smells really good. It's so interesting. Soup, and it's kind of porridge. It's like in this kind of weird middle place, especially once you add the cream. But let's give it a shot. Interesting. So the mace really hits you first. It's that and the chicken stock. Those are the dominant flavors, which is interesting for a soup or any kind of dish. It's an odd combination. And then, after a couple seconds, you don't get the flavor of the cayenne, but you get the heat of the cayenne, which is really interesting, especially from food of this time period. You don't really think of it as spicy, but it is. I have to say, it's weird, but it's also good, and wow, it would be so filling. And, it's the first of quite a large meal. But the meals after this, we're going to cover the other classes, they get huge. This is a tiny meal in comparison to what we're going to cover in future episodes. So I hope you're as excited as I am about Titanic Month. I've wanted to do it for a very long time, so I'm very glad that it's here. And I will see you next time on Titanic Month on Tasting History.
Apo.
Hello mga kachumis, maraming salamat sa mga nag-visit. Shouty sa lahat. Good morning, good morning. Ayan. Hindi natin naubos, napakatamis. Shouty. Good morning, Pilipinas. Good afternoon and good evening sa ibang bansa. Ayan. Nagkalat pa yung lipstick, no?
Well, not today. Today we are talking second class lifestyle with a first class dish, a sauteed chicken mayonnaise, served at the very last meal on Titanic. Thank you to Byron for sponsoring this video as we cover the second class, the forgotten class, on Titanic. This time on Tasting History. So today we're covering the second class, but the dish that we're making was served to the first class as part of the fourth dinner course.
Maraming salamat sa mga nag-visit.
So I chose to do this dish rather than a second class dish from that last night because
Shouty sa lahat. Good morning.
Yeah.
Ayan, Christmas tree natin sa likod.
Often the dishes were served to both classes on different nights. When it comes to the recipe, we must look Escoffier. The restaurants of the Titanic were often meant to resemble those at the Ritz Hotel, where Escoffier was the head chef. And his recipe for this dish is a little bit different than its modern counterpart, which is usually coated in flour and some herbs. But he calls for a plain sauteed chicken with sauce lyonnaise. Each 50 grams pan, add 250 grams chopped onion, and cook slowly to a golden color. Add 2 deciliters each of white wine and vinegar, reduce by 2/3, and add 7.5 deciliters salt spinning sauce. Simmer gently, skimming is necessary for 5 to 6 minutes, and pass through a sieve. So the sauce is the star here, otherwise it's really just plain chicken. And his recipe, I'm going to cut down a little bit just so it makes enough sauce for 4 chicken breasts. And they should be fairly small chicken breasts. As I said, this was part of the fourth course.
Next ko ganito.
Something you won't feel after eating ramen from today's sponsor. Most instant ramens are packed with sodium, and so
lipat tayo para
regret my decisions.
para
But ramen is made with 50% less
hindi
sodium.
nakakasilaw
Mga
mga kachumis.
And then if you do want more salt, you can add soy sauce or salt to your taste. The noodles are also made with high fiber quinoa and packed with nutrients. They use real ingredients like miso powder from Japan and actual chicken, beef, and pork, and they have vegan versions as well. The thing that I love most about Bite, other than the fact that their owners watch Tasting History,
Good morning.
company that
Maraming salamat sa lahat mga nag-visit. Nandito tayo kasi medyo hindi siya. Ay! The dog is there, Kaisa! Ato, gawas. Just it, gawas. Gawas. Oh, dihara. Gawas. Itong pagtagaan ng iro mga kachumis kasi ano naman siya, kawawa yung aso. Uy! Yung kawawa yung aso. Uy! Bigyan ko muna yung aso mga kachumis. Kasi nag-antay, kawawa naman ay marami pa ang daming tawag doon, ang dami pa namang baby niya. Dali lang mga kachumis, sandali lang. Uy! Ay, palang. La la la. It's too late. Hello mga ka-Jumix ko po dyan. Tapos na natin pinakain yung aso mga ka-Jumix. Ayan, shouty-shouty sa lahat. Bigyan love shoutout po sa lahat. Maraming salamat sa lahat mga nag-visit. Shouty, good morning Pilipinas. Ayan. Pinakain ko muna yung aso. Ayan, pinakain natin yung aso. Kawawa naman. Maraming salamat sa lahat mga nag-visit. Maraming salamat sa lahat mga nag-thumbs up. Shouty sa lahat. Hello, good morning. Yan, salamat naman sa Panginoon na talagang yung bagyo mawala talaga yung bagyo na. Kasi mahirap pag may bagyo mga ka-Jumix. Grabe. Tayo. Yan. Shouty sa lahat na nagamit yung aking tripod kasi pinatigas ko. Inano ko lang yan mga ka-Jumix. Nilagyan ko ng epoxy. Kasi yung dalawa talaga ang nabali niya. Nalagyan natin ng epoxy, nawa maging na siya. Nawa titigas siya mga ka-Jumix. Sa epoxy, hindi na siya mabali ulit. Yun, maraming salamat mga ka-Jumix ko po dyan. Shouty sa lahat. Good morning. Naman siya. Hello, hello, mga ka-Chumigz ko dyan. Shorty, shorty. So, ano natin, ubusin na natin mga ka-Chumigz. Hello mga ka-Chumigz, kain. Ano natin? Tamis kasi. Tamis. Kain-kain mga ka-Chumigz. ng cake. Tamis na mga katumis. Hello, maraming salamat sa mga nag-visit. Shoti-shoti sa lahat. Ayan, mag-iba kasi yung ano natin mga katumis. Color ng ating dila. Sa cake. May kami galaw shoutout mga katumis ko dyan. Shoti-shoti sa lahat. Good morning, Pilipinas. Maraming salamat. Ayan, ang laki ng mukha ko nito mga katumis po karap-karap. Ayan, suot ko na yung ano ko, yung mahiwagang salamin. Kasi binsan ko lang ito sinusuot pag mag-live ako. Nahihirapan ako sa isa. Ganyan. Ayan, nakikita ko naman yung first-sighted. Ayan. Kasi yung isa, kasi wala kasi yung grado sa first-sighted mga kachumis. Ito may grado kasi ito. Ayan, maraming salamat sa lahat mga nag-visit sa aking munting bahay. Bigay love shoutout sa lahat. Good morning. Ayan. Shouty sa lahat. 10:16 na pala. Akala ko 11 na. 10 pa pala. 15:16 pa pala. 10:16 pa pala eh. Ayan, shouty sa lahat. Maraming salamat. Maraming salamat sa nag-like. Bakit hindi ko nakikita yung mga na. Connect na. Hello, Jumigz One. Pasensya na nawala yung connection ko. Nag-reconnect. Pasensya na. Nag-reconnect ako, Jumigz One. Good morning. Yan, kumusta ang bagay dyan sa inyo? Maraming salamat sa pamsa, Jumigz One. Bigyan mo galap shoutout po. Maraming salamat. Shouty sa lahat. Maraming salamat sa lahat ng mga nag-like. Harapa.
Listen to my message
Where?
on your phone.
What?
You see?
Hello. Shouty sa lahat. No more. Hello mga Jumigs ko dyan. Shouty, shouty. Maraming salamat sa lahat mga nag-visit. Maraming salamat Jumigs Unin, YTC. Good morning. Good morning kay Jumigs Eduardo dyan. Kumusta dyan? Yung sa Cavite, kumusta ang bagyo Jumigs Eduardo Cordero at saka yung sa kanyang wifey soon na si Jumigs Leia sa Saudi. May shoutout sa lahat. Good morning dyan good morning sa Pilipinas and good afternoon and good evening sa ibang bansa po. Mega love shout out. Babay muna tayo ha. Kasi na mayroon na lang akong gagawin. Kaya maraming salamat sa lahat mga nag-visit sa aking munting bahay. Maraming salamat sa lahat ng mga nag-thumbs up. Mega lang shoutout sa lahat. Yan, thank you po sa pag-visit ninyo ha. Maraming salamat. I love you all. Love you all. Bye-bye.